All right. Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Hope you're doing well. I'm going on a little trip here soon. I'll be going to Antigua. If anybody's ever been there, maybe you could drop it in the comments. Let me know what you thought. So it should be a good time sitting on the beach, having some drinks, going to all inclusive there. We're going to go see the island. We're going to hang out on the beach. It's going to be a great time going with my whole family. It's 21 of us going. So that's a pretty large group of people. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm looking forward to it. So anybody ever been there, let me know what your thoughts were. Hey guys, don't forget also to like and subscribe to the videos, share them, comment on them. I'll try to comment as much as I can. So you can share those too. If you guys, I've got the comments open on the live stream here too. So if you have comments, things you want to say, go ahead and just drop it into the comments. I'll have those up on the screen so that everybody can see your comments. But yeah, lots of stuff going on here. So lots of interesting things. Nick Shirley just released one of his latest videos about uncovering fraud in California. So we'll be looking a little bit at that today. There's got to be so much fraud in California. It's going to blow our fucking minds. There's probably $1 trillion worth of fraud in California. And we've got these losers who are stealing all of the taxpayers' money, and they're living in, they're going to south of France and partying on yachts, and they're driving Maybachs, and, and these people, they don't even have real jobs. They just are scammers who steal taxpayer money through NGOs and through hospice programs and all this. It's crazy the amount of fraud that Gavin Newsom has allowed his state to get away with. He's done nothing to address it, nothing to look into it. He blew $24 billion on homelessness to solve homelessness. And guess what? They have more homeless now than they ever had. Turns out when you incentivize people and you pay them per homeless person, when you pay an NGO per homeless person, turns out you get more homeless people, so the NGO makes more money. Imagine that. Who would have thought, right? And so Nick Shirley's there going through all these things. He's kind of like what he did in Minneapolis with the Leering Center and all that stuff. He's doing that in California now. And it's massive. People are now saying that there's probably the only reason we even have a national debt is because of fraud. Then you add that, you add the fraud with all the money given to foreign governments, all the money given to entitlement spending, welfare spending, all the shit, none of which gets us anything in return. So it's just all this expense that brings nothing back to the taxpayer. The problem the Democrats have is they always want more money. They want to tax more. They want to put more, a sales tax on that, a fee on this, a registration thing on that, increase tax the rich, take 1% or 5% of their wealth and raise the property taxes so we can blah, blah, blah. But they have absolutely nothing to show for any of it. And they expect people to be okay with just giving them more of their hard-earned money. Why would you give politicians more money? They haven't shown they could be responsible with it. They haven't shown that they've actually can be effective with it. The only place that we can see that they have is the military. And you can see that with what's going on in Iran right now. Our military's the greatest military in the world by far. You can see where your money's going there when you're seeing these absolutely amazing displays of super technology. But you can't see that anywhere else. There's no end of homelessness. There's no end of poor people. There's no end to any of these things. And we spent trillions and 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 trillions of dollars trying to solve social problems, and they never solve anything. They create more social problems. So why would voters and taxpayers want to keep giving you more money? So it's like in New York City, Mom Donnie needs more money. Well, the only reason he needs more money is because the the city absolutely sucks at managing the public money. It all goes to special interest groups and then just gets wasted. It gets filtered into some cronies, of some friend of the government's pockets. And this is always how socialism works. Every single time socialism gets put into place, they take all the money, they never redistribute it to anybody that's not one of their political buddies. So the political class gets super rich and everybody else gets poor. And this is what you can see in these blue cities like New York City. The super rich are still super rich. You can act like you're going to take their stuff. But what happens is there's never enough money for the socialists. There's never enough. So they say, yeah, we're just going to tax the rich people because, and that's their foot in the door. They think, okay, well, here's how we'll deceive the people because we're going to take their money too. We're going to take the normal person's money too. But this is how we're going to deceive them. We're going to tell them it's just those evil, greedy, rich people who won't even notice it's gone. And we're going to take that money and it's going to go for like helping orphan puppies. So isn't it better to help orphaned puppies than for a billionaire to buy another yacht? This is the kind of stupid mind games that they play, the way they try to manipulate you using emotion, because that's what the left and what socialism does. They play on people's emotions. They don't come with any facts. They don't come with any historical accomplishments. They don't come with anything that's actually beneficial to the society. All they come with is emotion. Oh, there's people who have less than other people. That's so sad. There's people who are in need. Oh, that's so sad. There's cats with no moms. That's so sad. So we should take your money and we'll solve the problem. They never solve the problem. They just end up buying themselves mansions and private jets and Rolls Royces and live the high life while everyone else suffers and can barely even have bread to eat. Happens every single time. So it shouldn't surprise us, that there's massive amounts of fraud in a ridiculous socialist leaning state like California, run by a bunch of psychopaths who have absolutely no qualifications except their connections to other people or the checkbox they check off on some kind of DEI checklist. Yeah, Gavin Newsom, who has no business running a lemonade stand, running the fifth largest or fourth largest economy in the world, has no idea what he's doing, no clue how to hire anybody competent, no idea how to balance a budget, no idea how to read a financial statement or do anything, doesn't even read the bills that he signs into law, completely incompetent in every way imaginable. And you just go right on down the list of all the leadership in California. It's all the big cities. The leaders are completely incompetent, often chosen just because they're either a woman or they're black or they're a minority of some sense. They're gay or some stupid shit. Not because they're competent or they know what they're doing or they're going to do the best for their society, but as a form of social justice because, only white men have been in power in California. And now you can see that as we get more into those policies, it gets shittier and shittier of a state. California has not gotten better since all these stupid policies have gotten put into place. It's gotten way worse. And they're not even investigating the fraud. It's so ridiculous. Why would you not want to stop the fraud? Well, there's a couple different reasons. Maybe as a politician, a lot of that fraud gets funneled back into your campaign or your friends' campaigns or your party's campaigns. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. Maybe because the money is taking power away from somebody you don't want to have power. Maybe it's empowering or giving certain power to certain groups that you want to have more power because you want to push an agenda. There could be all kinds of reasons, but it's pretty obvious that they don't want to stop the fraud. California could stop this fraud dead in its tracks. They know where the fraudsters live. All they have to do is go and investigate. Just go to a house that says it's a daycare center and see if it's actually a daycare center. Go to a place that says it's a hospice and see if it's actually a hospice. You got these hotel buildings full of all these hospice places, official hospice areas, and daycares. Not a single hospice person in there, not a single daycare, not anything. Just an address where checks get mailed so that the government can siphon tons of taxpayer money into the pockets of people who don't deserve it. who aren't actually doing anything to help the taxpayer. I'm convinced the budget could probably be half of what it is. There's absolutely no reason ever that we need a deficit. We have plenty of money in this country. The problem is just the management of the money. It's been mismanaged for decades. Both Democrats and Republicans have sucked at it. And what have we gotten in return from them? We've gotten nothing. We've gotten a more broken down country, a country with more homeless people, a country with all kinds of social ills. They haven't solved a single problem. The government won't solve any problems. It can't solve problems. People think it can, but it can't. It certainly can't solve something like homelessness. Not in its current state. Because they're not willing to do what it would take to actually solve the problem. You have to forcibly remove these people from your streets. That's it. You have to lock them up. These people are not well. Most of them are mentally ill. We need asylums to put them in. They need to be forcibly removed and locked up involuntarily or voluntarily. They don't want to live in a house. They actually want to live out. When they've done studies where they've given these people the choice. What do they want to live in some kind of shelter, or they want to live on the streets? They almost always choose to live on the streets. They want to live on the streets for some weird reason, right? But they're dangerous out there. They're causing all kinds of problems. And we don't need $24 billion to solve homelessness. It's a much cheaper problem to solve than that. But anyway, far be it from the Democrats to actually want to solve a problem. And you got the same thing going on in New York City. They're increasing their budget too to take care of homelessness, because obviously it's a money issue. The government doesn't have enough money. That's why the homelessness problem hasn't been solved, because when they had $50 million a year, that wasn't enough. And when they had $75 million, that wasn't enough. When they had $100 million a year, that wasn't enough. And when they had $500 million a year, that wasn't enough. Right? This is the way it goes. It just keeps increasing, and nothing ever gets done. Nothing ever will get done about it. It's because the leadership is completely useless. And you've got these stupid liberal policies and liberal leaders who don't actually have any principles. They don't actually have any competence. They don't know what they're doing. They waste the taxpayers' money. They don't seem to care. So the cost of New York City per homeless person that they spent last year was $81,000 a year per homeless person. You could just buy the fucking people a house. I mean, what are they spending this money? $81,000 per homeless person, and the person's still homeless? Where's that money going? What's it do? Where's it go? Who gets it? And then that's not even enough. They need to increase it. Their next budget, they're going to increase it to $93,000 per homeless person, because that problem is not our incompetence and our inability and the fraud of people just taking it and these NGOs sucking. It's that we just don't have enough money. If we just had a little bit more money per homeless person, then we could solve the homeless problem. It's all insane. And immigration plays a lot into the homeless problem, because we would have a lot more vacancy, a lot more places to live for people who are homeless, right? Less opportunity for people to become homeless who don't want to be homeless. Much of homelessness is mental health issue and drug addiction, but it certainly doesn't help to have illegal immigrants filling all of your low cost and rent subsidized apartments. So there's an immigration element to all this as well. And so we'll be talking about a lot of this kind of stuff. So let's get into it here. I guess I got a little clip from this Nick Shirley video we're gonna watch, and I've got I've got the whole video too. We're not going to watch the whole thing. I'm just going to play like the beginning of it because it's like 40 minutes long. But I do recommend you go and see it. Go to Nick Shirley. He's exposing the fraud in California now. So um, here's just a little clip from that. This is him outside of these hospice rooms.
What do you do for work here? What do you?
Whoops, hospice like hotel kind of thing. Why is Governor Newsom mad at Nick Shirley for exposing fraud? Why would he not want to know about an old motel with 30 fake hospice businesses in the rooms and a parking lot full of BMWs and Mercedes? Does this sound like a legit place to you? Now, is it that the leadership doesn't know that this hotel exists and somehow Nick Shirley found it miraculously all by himself? No, they know that this exists. They just refuse to go and actually look into it. They refuse to go, and because there's nothing for them to gain by weeding out fraud. This is how selfish our leaders are. They don't actually care about the American people. They only care about themselves. And they're like, well, hey, it's not really causing me any political problems. If we just keep mailing them the checks, fine by me. They can do whatever they want with it. I'm not going to go there and investigate anything and get people mad at me and have bad publicity or have a bad look, and it's completely ridiculous.
What do you do for work here?
Huh?
What do you do for work here?
Why?
Oh, we're just looking around. We're seeing all these hospices, so we're just curious.
Oh, I don't know, man.
Word got out that I was inside of the plaza and all the fraudsters started hopping in their cars, leaving the scene.
Excuse me. Let's see if they can just answer our questions really quick. Hello, can we ask you a quick question? Driving out in a brand new M8. They can't get out that easy. How can I get an M8 as well? Should I open up a hospice? Driving out in a brand new M8 BMW M8 competition. Listen to this thing. This is the sound of hospice money. And this is the guy who said he's fat because of Dr. Oz. His business is not open today. Seems like this mafia right here is naming all of their companies after the word angel. We have Angels of Valley Hospice. We have Angels of Haven, Angels of Peace, Light of Angels. Yet the BMWs, one right here, one right there, two brand new Mercedes over there. It just is unbelievable the amount of money that these people are making, and they're not even trying to hide it. Buying these luxury cars, each and every single person's wearing some sort of designer clothing as well. And this building looks like it used to be some sort of old motel that has turned into some cash grab, money grab for hospices here.
There's your money at work, people. Your hard-earned money going to probably illegal immigrants so that they can drive $200,000 cars around. There goes your $200,000 that you worked hard for to these criminals, and no one cares. How many trillions of dollars must there be driving around in fancy cars, going on luxury vacations and designer clothes and all this? How much of our money is being wasted like this? This is what happens when the government gets way too big. They're way too involved in all this kind of stuff. None of this should even exist. I forget, it's LA has something like 100 or I don't know, 10 times more hospices than the entire state of Florida, even though their age of their population is the same. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I bet a lot of this fraud is done by people who are immigrants. Probably not people who are U.S. citizens or who have lived here for 100 years and have generational ties to the country. It's probably first, second generation immigrants, just like the Minnesota stuff where it was all the Somali immigrants who are stealing all of our tax money so that they could go live life. They don't want to produce anything. They don't want to actually do real work. They just want to take our shit. And this is what they want to do. This is the reason a lot of these immigrants come here. It's not because they believe in America or because they want to contribute and they want to work hard and they want to work towards a future and they want to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. That's not at all what they want to do. They don't want to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. They want to take your bootstraps from you. They want you to pull them up. They don't want to have to do anything. They don't want to work hard. They don't want to have to build an entire civilization. They just want to come here once the civilization is built and pillage it. This is why we need to repeal the Hart-Celler Immigration Act. We need to repeal Hart-Celler because that's what opened up immigration to all these third world losers who just come here and abuse us and take our shit and run fraud, who bring drugs in, who murder, who rape, who steal. We need to end Hart-Celler, get rid of this open migration to any country, any people, anytime, get rid of the temporary protective status, totally get rid of all that, get these people out of here. We don't need any of these people. We don't need Haitians here. We don't need Somalis here. We don't need most of these people here. They're not a net positive. They're a net negative. Sure, I mean, maybe this is a real benefit to luxury car sales. And so they want these people to stay and they want the fraud to keep going because these people all go and buy BMWs and Mercedes. But as for the normal American citizen, these people do absolutely nothing for us. They do absolutely nothing good. They do nothing useful. They're not productive. They don't volunteer. They don't help around. They don't contribute to our society in any way whatsoever. They're simply a ball and chain around us. They hold us down. They hold us back. They waste our money. Then they get this fraud money and they send it over to their countries. So the money's not even circulating in our own culture. So it's estimated that every dollar kept in your community turns into $2 as it gets spread around and passed. So if they're doing remittances of $100 billion a year, $150 billion a year, then that's $300 billion worth of economic activity that has left. We need to put either a huge tax on remittances, or we need to ban remittances for illegals or for any immigrants, or we need to completely make remittances illegal unless there's a business interest or some kind of commercial interest. Just sending money from your relatives in India shouldn't happen anymore. That money should have to be spent in the United States. It has to buy something here. If not, just get out. We don't need you here. We'll make the money and we'll spend it in our own communities. I don't have anywhere to send remittance money. I spend all my money in my community and in my country. And so that's how you build wealth and you build a wealthy society. You can't have people pillaging the productivity of people, wasting it on people who are fraudsters, having the fraudsters send the money overseas so that they can build a big mansion in Mexico and have 3 or 4 expensive cars in Mexico so that when they leave for 6 months out of the year, they can go live in luxury and then come back here and take our money from us so that they can keep doing that. This doesn't make any sense. The remittances are a big problem. The fraud is a huge problem. All right, let's watch a little bit of this one here.
This is the sound of hospice money. Could you just answer the question, what's the need for a 1,000% increase in hospice care here inside of LA? Do you have the paperwork to enroll a little boy by the name of Joey?
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on.
Well, it says there's 14 children enrolled here on the state of California. That there is $6,000 per beneficiary. Can you give us any explanation? Where can we open a hospice at? Get the Maybach just like you.
Foreigner.
California may have the largest amount of fraud in the country, as California is the state with the highest taxes and collects more money than any other state in America. It is filled with fraud. California's version of Medicaid, called Medi-Cal, has more than doubled since 2022 from $108 billion to a proposed $222 billion in 2000.
$222 billion. It's doubled in only 4 years. And what are they getting in return? They're getting absolutely nothing. It's not a money problem. So this is how bureaucrats and politicians try to solve a problem. Well, the problem is just that we don't have enough money. $100 billion wasn't enough money. We can't make $100 billion work. There's just not enough there. We need $200 billion. $200 billion isn't going to make a bit of difference either. You're just dumping money into a bucket with a hole in it. And it's going to, Guatemala, and it's going to Somalia, and it's going all over the rest of the place. And it's not actually doing anything for real citizens, the people who actually paid the taxes. Because none of these people pay taxes. None of these fraudsters are paying any taxes. It's ridiculous.
2026. Their population, however, has not grown exponentially. However, their spending has. There has been 1,000% increase in hospice care in the Los Angeles County. In fact, 1 out of every $10 of home health care in America is spent in Los Angeles. On top of that, their government-funded daycare programs are filled with violations. While they continue to give money to these fraudsters, it is estimated that the fraud in California could be in the hundreds of billions of dollars. In this video, we'll be going face to face with these fraudsters, confronting them as they defraud the American taxpayer out of millions and billions of dollars as they live their lives in luxury, driving around luxurious cars that cost more than $100,000 that you actually paid for. Let's start first by going to these daycares filled with violations that still continue to receive money from the government.
This is what happens when you let Democrats take over control of your state, of your area. This is what happens. This is Democrat rule. This is leftist rule. This is what it looks like. Fraud, abuse, foreigners stealing your money, taking advantage of you. We don't need any more of this anymore. This has to end. It's got to stop. We got to shut it down. It's not worth it. The last 60 years have been an absolute disaster, especially the last 10 years. The fraud, everything has gotten so much worse. Biden letting in all those immigrants who are now fraudsters, stealing taxpayer money, not working, not contributing, not doing anything useful other than voting for Democrats, which just makes the problems even worse. So this is Nick Shirley. You guys should go check out this full video. It's 40 minutes long. I think that it'll be very enlightening to see what's really going on, especially in California. Also, guys, don't forget, like and subscribe, comment, share the videos. That helps out with the algorithm. If you've got any questions, drop some comments in the live chat, and I'll be trying to keep up with those as much as I can. So not only in California is the fraud bad, but it's going to be in every Democrat state, and it's going to be super, super bad. It's probably $1 trillion worth of fraud in all these Democrat states combined. We already saw the Minnesota fraud and how much there was there and how ridiculous it is. We go to Illinois, there's going to be fraud, and with Washington's going to be fraud. Oregon, there's going to be a ton of fraud. New York City, there's a ton of fraud. So that brings me to this chart here. This is the amount of money New York City spends per homeless person. New York City spends more per homeless person than the median New York City household earns. Is that outrageous? They spend more money per homeless person than the median New York City household earns. The people paying this money, the homeless people who aren't contributing anything, who are completely useless and worthless people, get more money spent on them than the people who work two people working full time. And did the Democrats ever feel bad about this? They never feel bad about it. It's like the money is just magic. It just like magically appears and they don't know where it comes from or how they got it. They just know that they have a right to it. All of these programs need to be cut. I'm convinced all of it needs to be cut. No more spending on homelessness. Just cut it out completely. Because what's the point? They're not solving anything. Homelessness isn't going to grow anymore. If you don't give homeless people benefits and take care of them and feed them and all this kind of stuff, they're going to leave because there's no reason to be there. This is why the California homelessness increased after they spent $24 billion trying to solve it, because people moved there because they were giving them shit. Of course, that's what's going to happen. Just like the illegal immigrants, they're going to move to your town if you say, hey, we're going to give you a free house. We're going to give you free food. We're going to give you free spending money. We're going to give you a free phone. Of course, they're going to move to there. If you don't give them incentives to move there, they won't move there. Pretty simple. But instead, Democrats, being the morons that they are, they would never do something like that. And they would try to sell it to you as, oh, that's being mean or whatever. Instead, they just want to fleece the taxpayer of their money and they want to siphon it into the pockets of their friends. They probably have people who work for these homelessness NGOs, and they probably make $500,000 a year running it or something. Or there's some other nefarious thing going on that keeps this crap going. So $81,000 per person. It excludes supportive housing, which is also about $500 million per year, mental health response teams, and NYPD encampment costs. So what's this money for then? So it says NYC street homeless, cost per person per year, spending tripled, the population grew 26%. So not even that long ago, you can see in 2019, it was $28,000 per person, which is still way too much. How does it cost so much to take care of a homeless person? What kinds of costs could they possibly have? Okay, so $28,000 per homeless person. And by 2025, it was all the way up to $81,000. And it's projected to be $97,000 for 2026. $100,000 per homeless person is what they're spending. And how is this even fixing anything? How does this even solve any problem? True cost is higher because this excludes supportive housing, mental health co-response teams, NYPD encampment costs, and other city agency spending on this population. So you're probably talking $250,000 per person per year. Just lock them up. Just put them in an asylum or put them somewhere that would be far cheaper. So the total spending increased 262%, while the homeless population increased 26%. I mean, I don't know how people can put up with this stuff in blue states. It's just absolutely insane to see your money just thrown into the fire like this and get nothing out of it. To see all the waste and the abuse and the total disdain, if you even bring it up, and the incompetence of the people who run these organizations, the incompetence of the leaders, the incompetence of the city councils and the states, all of it. And they're incapable of understanding how there could be any other solution to the problem of homelessness than just charging the taxpayer more money to solve it. So they were spending $28,000 per homeless person, and in spite of all the money they spent, the homeless population increased. Are they even trying to solve homelessness, or what are they trying to do? They're not trying to do anything. They're just letting the problem continue, and these NGOs just keep collecting the grant funds. That's all that happens. The people running the NGOs make money, and that's it. It's completely ridiculous. So thankfully, Nick Shirley's out there doing the work that the journalists should be doing, that the mainstream media should be doing. This should be all over the mainstream news, how much fraud there is. You're never going to hear anything about it on CNN or NBC or ABC or any of these kinds of places. You won't hear a single thing about any of the fraud. And it makes you wonder, like, why are they so, why do they not want to run a country well? Why do they not want to run their state well? Why do they not want to hold the people in power to account for the taxpayer money that they've been entrusted with? Why? It's hard not to see that they want it to happen because they don't want to bring light to it. Oh, they don't want to make the Democrats look bad because then Democrats will lose. Well, good, they should lose because they suck at everything. Everything. So anyway, let's talk about immigration a little bit here. So it's kind of tied to all the things that plague us. Andy Ogles is wanting to end the H-1B scam. He wants to end chain migration and all the other ills that have come with the Hart-Celler Act back in 1965 that has just opened our borders to allow all the idiots and all the losers and all the morons to come into our country and take advantage of us and steal our shit. That then allows their whole family to come in here and steal our shit and go on to welfare, go on to all this stuff. They're way too expensive and not productive at all. We don't need these people here. It's not in our own best interest. We would all be way richer if we didn't have all these immigrants from third and fourth world countries.
Correct. They'll also end H-1B visa. That scam ends chain migration and create a whole new character-based system of migration to the country, importing a better quality of immigrant. Ogles has also called to ban Muslims from the country completely, which of course exploded the left into a fury. Indian-born Michigan Democrat Shri Thanadar introducing a 2-page resolution to censure Ogles over that. And the congressman joins us now to give us his perspective. Good to have you on again, sir. In today's very progressive world, it takes a lot of guts to announce what you have planned here. Explain why you think this is the best way to do it.
Well, I mean, all you have to do is, quite frankly, watch your show, watch the news, and you see the terror attacks. You see how immigration was weaponized against the American people during the Biden administration. We have people that, quite frankly, don't belong here. They hate us. In particular, those individuals from Afghanistan, parts of Africa, again, they're the ones committing crimes. And when they go into local communities, you can literally watch the crime increase in those communities relative to the migration, the invasion of immigrants into this country. So it's a very pragmatic approach. We get to prioritize who comes to this country. Guess what? It's our country. We get to decide who comes in. That also means we get to decide who leaves. And so the current immigration system is broken. It's abused. You know, you have the chain migration where one person comes in and suddenly their entire family gets to follow. That ends. The H-1B visa scam, that ends. And so again, let's get back to the basics and let's thoroughly vet people who are coming into this country and make sure they belong here.
Yeah. I mean, you're correct.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. It's common sense, right? We need a common sense immigration reform. We can't, the way that the Democrats have just completely fucked everything up is completely ridiculous. And it was both parties, not just Democrats. Democrats most recently, especially Joe Biden and all the bullshit he did to us. But it's been a Democrat-Republican thing, and that's why there isn't any sensible immigration reform. But we need to, this needs to get serious now, and we need to start putting some serious policies into place here. Hart-Celler is completely stupid and completely ridiculous. We don't need it. We don't want these people. We're going to only choose people from cultures that are compatible with U.S. culture from now on. Get rid of these third worlders. Get rid of these people who live in mud huts and they live like animals, and they have no idea how an advanced civilization works and how to do anything. And so that we just end up having to pay them to live here, pay them more, pay them more, pay them more, take care of their bills, take care of their health, take care of all this. Why? We want the Japanese and we want Europeans, maybe some Chinese, and that's about it. They know how to operate in a society like this. They know what the rules are. We don't have to teach them. We don't have to train them. We don't have to constantly be arresting them and locking them up and watching over them and taking care of them. They take care of themselves and they provide. And they add to the economy. They add to our lives. We have enough American citizens who are losers, who need us to take care of them and feed them and wash them and bathe them and take care of their health care and treat them like fucking babies. We've got plenty of those people already. We don't need more from your countries, okay? So complete immigration ban to start. Hart-Celler, get rid of that. Introduce the Assimilation Act. Only be very picky and choosy from where we allow immigrants to come from. They have to be culturally compatible. Total Muslim ban. Absolutely no Muslims allowed in the country. Deport all the Muslims in the country. Don't care if a couple good ones get rounded up with them. Get them all out. Don't want them here. Don't need them here. This is what we need to do. This will end this fraud. Not only are the illegals and legal immigrants taking our money through fraud, in addition to their welfare, huge amount of welfare they take, huge amount of emergency room visits that they take, huge amounts of housing that they take up that jack the price up, huge amounts of increase in food supply because we're giving them billions of dollars in SNAP funding that raise everybody's food prices. Everything got more expensive bringing all these immigrants in. And so it not only raises our cost of living, but also it increases our taxes, takes our property taxes, because now we have to pay for the illegal immigrant's kid to go to our school. So now we have to add on a wing to the school, and we have to hire another teacher, and we have to hire English as a second language teacher. We have to hire a special needs teacher because these immigrants don't know anything, and they have their hand held the whole time they're in class. And that's super expensive for the property owners. The illegals and the immigrants don't own property. The property owners do. And so it costs us, our property taxes go up, but we're not getting anything out of it. So no more, if you're an immigrant or if you're legal or illegal immigrant, no more free education. You're paying for that shit yourself. And the taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for your kid to get educated. And if you don't like it, get the fuck out. No more college tuition, no more scholarships, no more financial aid for immigrants, none of that. You're paying your own way if you're coming here. The taxpayers don't need to pay for you even more than they already do. And you know what? You're probably still not even a net benefit. There's literally like no upside to having these people in our country. We would all be way richer with them gone. So not only in the U.S. is this an issue, and in Europe, but also Chile elected a new right-wing president. And just days after getting elected, he's already, he's getting right on this thing. He's unveiled a border shield that orders the military to rush construction of anti-illegal immigrant trenches. Because wherever there's a successful economy, immigrants are going to just come into it. And South America is making a lot of really good moves right now, electing right-wing people. Right-wing is spreading across the world, people. It's taken over. People are so tired of this leftist, liberal, totalitarian reign of terror that we've lived under for the last 60 years that they're just like, fuck these people, get rid of them. We don't want leftists anymore. They ruin our countries. They've defrauded our governments. They've taken everything from the taxpayers. They've enriched themselves while impoverishing everybody else. We're tired of that. They killed our economies. They've killed our infrastructure. They've killed our healthcare. They've killed innovation. They've killed everything because they wanted to plunder these places. So now everybody's waking up to this and they're seeing, wow, look at how much Europe is crumbling. Their standard of living has gone down in the last 20 years. They used to be richer, now they're poorer. What? And all these, it's just been nothing but leftist rule the whole time. So the world's waking up. The world's waking up. Donald Trump was a big wake-up call to the world all the way back in 2016. So now you got Bukele in El Salvador, you've got Milei in Argentina, and now we've got Cast here in Chile. We're going to have Ecuador reelected their right-wing president. We got in Europe, you're going to get Restore is going to kick the shit out of everybody. They're going to take over that country. There's no doubt about it. They've got so much energy. It's going to be crazy. They're going to rule AfD in Germany. You've got I forget the party, but Austria looks like they're going to go right-wing. You got Le Pen, you've got, Meloni in Italy, you've got all these people, and this is where the momentum's at. You just saw Japan elect their prime minister, or is she president? I can't remember, and they're just putting a total ban on migration. They don't want anything to do with it either. It's the way that the world's going. They're seeing that you can't just bring a bunch of foreigners into your country and expect it to be a positive for you. The whole idea of pluralism and multiculturalism and diversity being strength and being good and helping out your country, it's all a lie. It's all a sham. It always was a lie. It always was a sham. It was all about just keeping nationalism from growing and trying to keep dominant groups of people. It's hatred of majority rule, basically, is the whole idea after World War II. A hatred for majority rule. So you had to destroy all majorities. And the way that they could do that in a lot of these countries was to bring in foreigners, because then you sell it as diversity is our strength, and multiculturalism is really fun, and pluralism is great. All of which was a lie. And it was just an attempt to undermine those countries with their majority rules, because these people thought that World War II, the problem with World War II was the majority rule, the Nazis majority rule, the Japanese majority rule, the Russian majority rule. And they wanted to undermine those countries because they caused so much devastation and caused so much harm to the world. They thought if we could just break up these large groups of similar people dominating these countries, then surely that would just that would make the world safe, and there would be no more of these world wars. There would be no more conflict. People could get to know each other from different countries, so you wouldn't want to go to war with them, because now you're friends with them and you're dependent on them, and we're going to interlock our trade with one another so that everybody is dependent on one another. And now if you like they're talking about in the United States, if you get rid of the immigrants, oh my gosh, you're going to have all these holes in your economy, and it's going to cost you so much. It's going to drag down the GDP, and it's going to destroy, because once they get integrated, or once they get installed, not integrated, but once they get entrenched in your country, then you can make these arguments. Oh, well, but because bad things are going to happen, even though before they were there, bad things weren't happening. But it's all a post-World War II idea of pluralism, diversity, because they saw Europe as being too homogeneous, and especially Germany. It was too much white men, too many white men. When they gather together and they get these bad ideas in their minds, and then they just go and blow up everything and kill everybody and cause all this death and destruction. So we need to undermine their power. So in the Western world, it's about undermining the power of white people. Now, they want the same thing to happen in China and Japan and things like that too, because they don't like that the Japanese are keeping Japan Japanese. They're like, well, that's not nice. That's not fair. That's not right. The Japanese are going to do bad things. They're going to oppress minorities, because the majorities always oppress the minorities. So we need to bring in more minorities, and we need to lower down that majority down to a minority status as well. And so it's just all minority statuses across the board, so that there's no majority that can dominate and oppress the minority groups. Now we've seen how well this works out. It doesn't work out at all because the minority groups oppress other minority groups too. They go and they kill and they fight and they it's like a bunch of tribalism. And you can look at any tribal society, and they're highly violent, they're highly racist and judgmental. They get into conflict all the time, enslave people, they eat their enemies, they sacrifice them. It's just crazy brutality when you live in a tribal group. And you're seeing these tribes now in the Western world. We bring in all these different groups, and the tribes don't like one another, whether it's Hispanics and blacks, or it's Somalis and whites, or it's, Muslims versus Christians, or whatever. People are just tribal, and they're always going to be tribal, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. And we sort of run this experiment where we're like, okay, well, if we just put a bunch of tribes together in one country, and we just bring a bunch of people from other countries and we just let them stay in their separate tribes and make their own culture, bring their own culture and their own customs, then that'll be okay. Well, it doesn't work because it causes more crime, lack of trust, more abuse, more cost, more expense, more uncertainty, less consistency. And it causes problems in business. It causes problems in the education system. It causes problems in the political realm. It's a destabilizing force. It's not actually a positive, building, uniting force. And so a lot of countries have figured this out because this experiment of letting foreigners into your country has run its course, and people are tired of it, especially the local people, because they see we get nothing out of this. How is this supposed to benefit us? Well, it doesn't benefit anybody. It benefits just the people who are the globalists who want this kind of a world and are trying to bring it into existence, but it doesn't benefit the normal person. And so even in Chile, they're tired of this shit. So they're claiming their country for themselves. We're going to do whatever we can, whatever we want to do. We're going to keep foreigners out. We are Chile.
Estar aquí en el paso fronterizo de Chacayuta, frente al hito número 11, a la inmensa mayoría de los chilenos, mucho más allá de quienes opinan. Esto requiere una presencia permanente a futuro.
Building a trench along their border, so like a border wall, and they just started. Okay, yeah, building trenches. They're going to be 9 feet deep along their northern border with Peru and Bolivia to curb illegal migration. So even a country like Chile knows that illegal immigration is not beneficial to them, right? Because how could it be? So not only Chile, but also Ecuador. So Ecuador has started sending its military to fight cartels after seeing the success of President Bukele in El Salvador. Now, this isn't specifically targeting illegal immigrants, but a lot of this cartel activity, it has to do with illegal immigrants, because these gangs are not simply Ecuadorians. The cartels in Ecuador, the violence has gone up 300% in homicides, have gone up 300% from 2022 to 2024, 300%, because it's a cocaine hub. So their leader got reelected, and now he's all in on this cartel thing. And that has a lot to do with Trump as well, because Trump said he wants these cartels gone. He wants them out of these countries, and he's willing to help. If they want his help, he's willing to bring there. And it's great. This is another, cartels are a destabilizing force. They're terrorists. They poison countries. They take over power. They hinder the power of your military, of your police force, all this kind of stuff. I'm all for the cartels being totally, absolutely destroyed. But you have to keep it up. You have to keep destroying them. It's not like it's just going to end. It's a constant thing you have to maintain. So then when you get somebody who's soft on crime in there in power, oh, well, then they just let the cartels rebuild again. But such is life. So Poland, so going back to the immigration thing, Poland here has now become the world's 20th largest economy, and it's surpassed Switzerland. And one of the things that Poland has been doing is they're very restrictive on their immigration. And, Europe, the European Union, they hate it. You can't do that. You have to let Muslims into your country too. And Poland has just flat out said, we are not letting any Muslims into our country. Now, Poland has had quite a bit of immigration, but it's due to the war in Ukraine. So they brought Ukrainians in. Now, Ukrainians are compatible with Poland. Ukrainians are compatible. They know how that kind of a world works. They know how the West works. And so Poland's crime rate has dropped by having Ukrainians in there. I believe the rate of rape has dropped by these Ukrainians being there. Now, most of these Ukrainians are women, so they're less likely to do things like that. So just having more people, and you probably have the same amount of rape, but because you added more women from another country, it's pushed it down. But they always tell us, well, you've got to have immigrants because they grow the economy. You have to bring in third worlders so that they can cut the grass and drive the Ubers and deliver the DoorDash. You have to have them because nobody else is going to do those things. And then your economy is, how are you going to add GDP? How are you going to grow your economy? How are you going to blah, blah, blah? Well, a generation ago, Poland rationed sugar and flour. Who was in charge? Oh, yeah, the leftists, the commies. No wonder. So they get it. Poland rationed sugar and flour while its citizens were paid 1/10 what West Germans earned. Today, the economy has edged past Switzerland to become the world's 20th largest with over $1 trillion in annual output. I mean, that's great. What a great accomplishment. And this is where these South American countries are going to. Their economies are going to skyrocket. They're going to get way richer. They're no longer going to be just poor as shit. And they're going to build nice societies. Now that they have people who are competent in charge, they've got people with reasonable policies. They're done with the people the ideologues who were like, oh, we envision a society like this, and so we're gonna force everybody to live like it, and all it does is causes everybody to become poor and miserable. Now you're have people with conservative ideologies, right-wing ideologies who are getting to this place, and they're flourishing. They're flourishing because of right-wing policies. I think that's a great thing. Bring back capitalism to these places. This is South America. One of their problems was they went socialist, almost all the countries, and it did nothing but destroy everything. Now they want capitalism back. They want their own country back. They want nationalism back. They want restrictions back. They want rule of law back. And all of those things are what's made every country that's ever existed great countries. And we lost that because it was so easy to maintain our countries that you could get away with letting some leftists make crazy, kooky shit. But now the time is up, and we've got to go back. We've got to go back to rule of law. We have to go back to capitalism. We have to go back to enforcing borders, boundaries. This is our country. You don't have a part of it. You go build your own country. And I think a lot of the things that Trump's doing in South America, South and Central America, is really beneficial. And he's really dedicated to working with them and getting them to be successful countries. And now that they're getting right-wing influence and leaders, they're going to be way more successful, so that their people will leave from the United States and go back to their countries, because something like 60 maybe percent of immigrants, illegal immigrants especially, are from South and Central America. And so as they stabilize their societies, and as they get wealthier, and as they get more safer, because the cartels are no longer there, then these people will want to go back to their countries, because it is where their heritage is. It is where their family is. It's where they grew up. It's where they've lived for hundreds of years. And they want to be with their people, but their societies have sucked so much that they've come here instead. So if we can help them make their countries more attractive and more stable and safe and productive and wealthy, then it's a benefit all across the board. And they will leave here. They'll go back. That'll be a huge win. Make nationalism great again, right? This is the fear of all of the globalists and the post-World War II people. They absolutely hated nationalism. Hate it, because they think nationalism is inherently destructive. They think it's inherently warmongering. They think national pride is dangerous. But it's all an illusion. It's all an illusion. And we've seen now past this illusion. Our eyes are open. We see what they've tried to do for the last 80 years, how they've tried to gerrymander the globe, how they've tried to force everybody to do things that they wanted, whether it's through the WEF or the United Nations or any of these kinds of groups, how they've tried to make the world in their own image, and it just became a cobbled together, broken mess. And now we have the responsibility of putting it back together. That's where we're at. That's what all this Trump stuff is about. Trump's the post-liberal president, the post-World War II president. We're going back to nationalism. We're going back to self-interest. We're going back to everybody else doing what's in their own best interest, and everybody securing their own borders. People, the world's not a melting pot. The United States is not a melting pot. It's a specific people. You can't just dump all of your criminals into our country or into any other country. You, country with the criminals, you have to deal with it. So speaking of Islam, speaking of criminals, Marco Rubio here is talking about Islam a little bit. And, he always uses the word extreme Muslim extremism or extreme Islam. But it's not just a problem with extreme Islam. It's a problem with Islam, period. Because the moderate Muslims don't do anything to stop the extremists. They don't speak out against them. They don't notify anybody about them. They in a weird kind of way, they kind of encourage them, but they don't have the balls to do the same thing as the extremists. But they kind of like it when the extremists bomb something and teach the West a lesson, because they still kind of do believe that Islam is the rightful heir of the globe, and that everyone should be Islamic, even though they're not going to go out and shoot somebody or torture somebody or bomb somebody. They still have that same belief that Islam is supreme. So they're a problem too, because they're the ones who encourage the extremists. They're the ones who allow the extremists. They're the ones who don't say, hey, look, these are the groups, everybody. These are the groups. Don't let any of these groups into your country. Don't talk to any of these groups. You need to bomb these people. You need to kill these people. They don't want anything to do with any of it. So, it's a sin of omission. They're not actively fighting against the extremists as they should be. So they're complicit. So I don't want any of these people in our country. I don't want the extremists here, and I don't want the extremist sympathizers here either. And that's the moderate Muslim, the extremist sympathizers. We don't need them. They provide us with absolutely nothing of benefit. They produce nothing. Their countries are garbage, which shows they're not capable of building anything of value. Let's see what Rubio has to say here.
Ultimately, all radical Islamic movements in the world identify the West writ large, but the United States in particular, as the greatest evil on the earth. And every chance to have the notion that somehow radical Islam would be comfortable with simply controlling some province in Iraq or Syria is just not borne out by history. Radical Islam has shown that their desire is not simply to occupy one part of the world and be happy with their own little caliphate. They want to expand. It's revolutionary in its nature. It seeks to expand and control more territories and more people. And radical Islam has designs openly on the West, on the United States, on Europe. We've seen that progress there as well. And they are prepared to conduct acts of terrorism. In the case of Iran, nation state actions, assassinations, murders, you name it, whatever it takes for them to gain their influence and ultimately their domination of different cultures and societies. That's a clear and imminent threat to the world and to the broader West, but especially to the United States, who they identify as the chief source of evil on the planet. Okay, the reason why they hate the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the leadership of the UAE, of Bahrain, is because they've allowed the United States to partner with them. That's why they hate them. They consider them infidels for it. They hate Israel, but they also hate America, and they hate anywhere in the world that we have influence. They seek to attack it, including here in the homeland. If you look at the domestic terrorists, at the attacks that have happened here domestically, the overwhelming majority of them have been inspired by radical Islamic viewpoints. And that includes the shooting in the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida. That includes the Saudi pilot in Pensacola, my home state, 2 attacks.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Why would we want to deal with this? Why would we want any part of any of this? Why would we even allow? Because here's the thing. We don't know the difference between a moderate Muslim and an extremist Muslim. How are you going to tell? You're going to ask them on an intake form, are you a radical Islamist? How are you going to vet and how are you going to tell? How are you going to pick who is and who isn't? We obviously don't know how to do that. That's why we have radicals in our country. And because Muslims are the ones who create all the terrorism, we don't need to take any of them. If taking no Muslims and kicking out all the Muslims stops one terrorist attack, that's good enough for me. That's good enough. I don't care. I don't care if you're a doctor or something and we kick you out. So what? Get out. Take your kind with you. Go back to your country. And fix these hellholes and weed out these extremists yourself. Why would we let you in our country if you're not willing to help us? Islam has absolutely no benefit to the West. Absolutely no benefit, no use. There's nothing positive for us. There's nothing we can gain from it. There's nothing beautiful about it. There's nothing productive about it. There's nothing. It's completely empty. Completely incompatible. It doesn't like capitalism. It doesn't like democracy. It doesn't like women's rights. It doesn't like freedom. It doesn't like any of the things that we have fought and suffered and killed for. It doesn't believe in any of them. Even the moderates don't believe in those things. So that might be the last thing I have. Well, there's this Brandon Johnson. You know, I get a kind of a kick out of these videos because it seems like these people are still so far behind. They're outdated, right? I know that the writing's on the wall, but these liberal Democrats like Brandon Johnson, these race hustlers and all these kinds of people, they still think that we live in a world where people are going to be okay with you saying, you know what we need in our country, in our state, we need more black firefighters, not just firefighters, but we need specifically black ones. They think that that's still an okay thing, that people are still on this idea of where, you know, the real goal is to equalize the different groups based on skin color. And, you know, white people have just had too much domination, black people, not enough representation. So what we need more black firefighters. People are done with that. That is like, makes you look like an old boomer to even say things like that, to even think that this is a thing anymore. We're so done with that kind of stuff. We're so done with the race quotas and the determining of things based on the color of people's skin and all that. Like, it's over, it's done. People are sick of it. It's been a complete and abject failure across the board. You're just gonna get, anytime DEI is implemented, all that means is you get a lower qualified candidate, or else you wouldn't have to make the qualifier of man or of woman or black or any of that. You wouldn't need the qualifier if the people were qualified. The reason you have to single out these groups is because they're not as qualified, and you have to take them and pick them up and put them over qualified people so that you can have social justice, you know? But it's sort of like these radical liberal people like Brandon Johnson. They are basically the conservatives of liberalism. They're liberal conservatives because they're trying to conserve the post-1965, basically 1964 world. They're so dedicated to conserving this thing. And in a broader context, the post-World War II consensus. They want to conserve those things. They see society going in a different direction and they're fighting against it because they don't want it to change. They want it to stay the same. They want it, they're conserving they're conserving the post-World War II consensus. They're conserving globalism. They're conserving racial politics. They're conserving political correctness. They're conserving affirmative action. They're conserving this whole world from the 40s and 60s that's still dedicated to protecting that. They just wish that if we could have more of that, we would have a better society. And the culture has just changed. The culture wants to move past all that stuff. It wants to be post World War II consensus. It wants to be post civil rights movement. So we're not going to just do more and more and more of that. We're going to get rid of Hart-Celler Act, and we're going to go back to the way that it was before this distortion of the modern world happened. So when I listen to Brandon Johnson, I hear somebody who's sort of like, it's like he thinks that it's still like 1970 or something.
And what I have done is I'm working with our HR, because that's where hiring rests, as we work to recruit more and more people to become firefighters, and particularly young Black folks. To your specific question, I've made a commitment to the entire department that I would continue to use my platform to encourage more Black young people to go into this profession, and also ensuring that our HR department has fair practices that allow for more of Black applicants to be in the rotation for strong consideration.
So basically, you know, he wants to use race as, you know, a hiring practice. He wants to be specifically racist and discriminatory in who he hires simply because the people look like him. Right. So this whole idea that really ramped up, you know, after the civil rights movement, that, you know, we need to force or put quotas on that specifically hire women, that exclude and discriminate against men, or hire Blacks and discriminate against whites, and all that whole thing that's been going on for the last 60 years. People are tired of it because they see that it doesn't actually produce anything better. A couple Black people and women will get wealthier than they would have been otherwise, but it doesn't change anything about the demographics. It doesn't change the society. It doesn't change the economics. It doesn't change socioeconomic status. It doesn't do anything other than it makes your police, your fighting force worse. It makes your companies worse. It makes your institutions worse. It makes your universities worse. It makes everything worse because you're not hiring based on competence and merit. You're not hiring the best people for the job. You're just hiring people because they're unchangeable characteristics. I mean, it'd be just as random as hiring people who have blue eyes instead of people with brown eyes. Like, you're not going to get better people just because you're hiring people with blue eyes. Right? This is I think this is where the majority of people are at, and the direction we're moving as a country. We're done with these arbitrary, ridiculous ways of hiring people and choosing people for college. And it's not arbitrary. It's very specific, I guess. I shouldn't say arbitrary, but we want it to be merit based, because we've seen things like the Palisades fires because they hired some black woman to be the police chief who didn't know what the fuck she was doing, and they burned down $50 billion worth of houses. Right? And that you see that stuff over and over and over and over again, whether it's crime rates in big cities because they have to hire some DEI police chief for optics, or whether it's Brandon Johnson himself with his shit rating because he's an incompetent buffoon but got elected because he's black, all that kind of stuff. Like, we're done with all that kind of stuff. Let's bring back merit, make merit great again, make competence great again. We should implement a test especially for all federal positions, and states should do the same thing. If you're working for the federal government, you have to take a competency test like you do to get into the military, and you have to score a certain level, or else you're just not even included. So we can get merit. We get the smartest. We can get people who are competent. We should have never outlawed IQ tests for business hiring. We want the businesses to get the best. School admission should be based solely on test scores. We shouldn't lower the standards for certain groups. All this stuff has been a failure. It's been a mess. It's made a mockery of our whole country. And it all in the name of social justice. And we have people complain more now than they ever have, even though for the last 60 years, it's been all about equality and equity and reducing stigmas and multiculturalism and desegregation and all this kind of stuff. And where has it gotten us? It hasn't accomplished anything. It hasn't created a better world. It hasn't made a less race-conscious world. It's made all that worse. So anyway, hiring firefighters because they're black is wrong. We should be done with that world. We should get rid of it. We should bury it 6 feet in the ground and move on. All right, everybody, don't forget to comment, subscribe, like, share the videos. Go to my YouTube channel, J. Allen Speaks. You can subscribe there. You can subscribe to you can follow me on X. Follow me on TikTok. You can follow me on Rumble. So I'm going to try to make more content for you guys. If you got comments, please comment on the videos. Please, any kind of interaction is good for the videos to get them out there. So that's it for me for today. I appreciate you joining me, and have a great day.